second critical thing I want you to make sure you're taking time this week to sort out. Who are the members of your Recession War Cabinet? We are, to a degree, in a battle. We're in a battle against the economy just as much as we're in a battle against disease. Right now, trying to do it all on your own is going to be difficult. It's going to be exhausting. And remember, energy is what's going to take us out of this recession. It's what's going to get your business from not just survive, but thrive. So who are you surrounding with in your war cabinet? And here are the 5 categories I'd encourage you to consider. The first person you want to have is some kind of finance professional, someone who can take a look at your numbers, your cash flow forecasts, P&L, your balance sheet, can actually bring strategic conversation to that. So you want them not looking in the past, but looking forward. What's that cash flow forecast? What's your strategy moving forward? What have you got to change? That might be somebody who's internal to your business already. It might be an internal CFO, and someone that I will give a specific recommendation to is CFO Centre, FD Centre. This is a page from their UK website that you can actually go to. They're currently offering any former clients or relationships, people like me in their channels who want to have a conversation, to have just a 1 hour kind of a video conversation with an actual CFO who can go through your numbers, answer some of those immediate questions, and if there's value, if there's something that they can do to help, then they can come in and do that and work with you to support you in a way that makes sense for you. So they're in a dozen different countries internationally, most specifically the UK, Australia, Canada, and the US. For anyone who's watching this there that wants an introduction, or just go to their website in your country and drop them a note, feel free to mention Jacob Aldridge and Don't Waste a Good Recession. The reason why, and they view themselves as internal CFOs who are part-time. So they're not an external consultancy that'll kind of come in and take your money. They see themselves as an internal part-time CFO. Maybe you already have a finance manager, a CFO yourself. Your accountant can fulfill this role. Just be very careful that you're not assuming that they do. Most accountants in normal times do not help their clients with cash flow forecasting, and they do not involve themselves with their client strategy. Right now, absolutely, they're possibly doing more to support their clients, but don't assume that they're looking forward, because that's not the traditional skill set of an accountant. And I say that as a former partner in an accounting firm. They have great skills. Those skills are perhaps different to what you might need from your finance professional. One of the skills accountants are really jumping into right now is that second of the trusted advisors, the stimulus support help. Who do you know who is on top of that stimulus, on top of what's going on, and therefore are on top of what it is that your business is eligible for? How can you access some of that cash, whether that's funding for your staff because they've been furloughed, funding for your staff because you're keeping them on, whether that's funding for you, for your business. There's new grants and loans came out today in one of the Australian states. These things are changing all the time. Accountants, I'm seeing, are doing a very good job of keeping on top of it. There are others in that finance space. SBO, Smart Bookkeeping Online, another one that's doing an excellent job there. Who's helping you with that? Number 3, financial planner. If you have a lot of assets outside of your business that you're worried about, it can be useful to have a financial planner who's overseeing them, particularly if the business is taking up more of your headspace these days. You don't necessarily have the time to be watching your share portfolio, your property investment, some of these things that you may be used to. And so consider having a financial planner who can be doing that research and guidance. Fee for service financial planning is what I recommend at all times, and especially now. Having a mentor or an industry group. So a mentor, very specific, different to a coach. A mentor is somebody generally in your industry who has walked the path before, who knows what it's like to be in your shoes and can tell you some information, some answers from their experience. Industry groups, of course, are that on steroids, although you'll often get a mix of peers and potentially people who are behind you on the journey as opposed to mentors who are normally advanced. every industry is going through this differently. Some are booming, some are having a moment right now, but know that the work is going to dry up in another month or two. Others are all hurting. Some are very, very up and down. You can talk to 3 different companies. One of my clients actually received a cease and desist order from a competitor because my client is continuing to sell in this environment. They've taken on board some of the sales advice that I've given them. They are actually considered an essential service, but there is a need for some parts of the business to be interacting with the public, which is, a little bit of a risk. They have done the risk mitigation, the HR, all of those things. One of their competitors weighed down differently and decided to shut down the business temporarily, and has actually sent a cease and desist order to my client telling them to stop operating because they're poaching clients, because they're winning business right now. Now, if you only knew one business in your industry, it was the one that was still winning clients and going well, you might think, oh, they're all fine. Or the one that had shut down, you might think they're all failing. Having that cross-section of your industry in particular will help you to understand whether, there's things that you could be doing differently to really benefit. And then the 5th and final one is having that advisor, someone you can have a conversation with who actually has recession experience. Now, for those of you watching the UK, the US, frankly, most of the world, there are a lot of them. Most of your accountants will have taken businesses through not 1 but 2 recessions in the past 15 years, 3 recessions in the last 20. If you're in Australia, as I've quite fond of saying, if your accountant, lawyer, business coach is under the age of 50 and hasn't actually worked overseas like I have, then they've never had a recession in the past. They've never, and they'll tell you that the GFC was the same. And I think we're all identifying right now, this is very different to the GFC. This is a recession. This is a lot worse. And frankly, there's some more to come, which you would know if you've been through this before. So who do you know who has been through this before? Because they can give you some perspective. They can give you some calm if that's warranted, or they can give you the direct get out of whatever if that's what is warranted. And at the very least, as I say, Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, don't waste a good recession. Come and have a conversation with us and with me. Is everyone on speed dial? Are you able to talk to these people directly? Do they know each other? That can be quite useful. And it's the last thing, when are your cabinet meetings? And there's 2 ways you could run them. You could get those advisors together. Get your accountant, your financial person, your coach or mentor or whatever, get them all on a group Zoom call for an hour or a morning, one morning early in the month or a Friday evening, and have some drinks virtually, or, pick a time each month where you go, that's when my cabinet is getting together. I know particularly for some accountants right now who are super busy, scheduling that might be difficult. In which case, maybe it's just that you run your advisory board one-on-one. In which case, do those consecutively. Don't, talk to your accountant one week and your coach the next. And, you want to be talking to us all of the time. But the value of that is, if I'm talking to all of my cabinet members on the same morning or the same day, whenever in the month that is, then we're making some faster decisions. Because if the accountant tells me that I can do X, Y, and Z with a stimulus package, and then I can feed that into my CFO and they can update the cash flow forecast, and then I can immediately be chatting to my business coach or advisor or mentor around what I'm thinking that will do to strategy, that can flow together in a really practical way to then give you some guidance for the next few weeks. If you're dragging out those conversations, it won't be quite as valuable. Who's in your cabinet? How often are you talking to them? The Facebook group here on YouTube, what questions do you have? What's come up from today?